my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Monday's Lunch and Learn. Give everyone a few minutes to join in. As always, if you have a question, you can use the raise hand feature, type your question out in chat, or ask it in the actual Q&A section. Either any of the above are acceptable. All right, please let us know if you guys have any questions. I don't think we, or do we have any pre-submitted questions for today? I didn't see any.
I don't have access to Sabrina's email. She's
Okay.
off today.
Take that as a no. All right, here's a question from Chris, and then Siva Kumara will get you right after this. So here's Chris's question in the chat, which is, does the data flow for a dynamic dropdown list change much in release 7? Yes, there's a new option called active form flows. You can continue doing it the same way you did before, Chris, but there is a new option called active form flows that allow you to handle this differently in V7. So if I were to create a place here for myself. I always forget to do this, don't I? Stink. I always forget to hit move to root. And if we were to create a flow, and in that flow put a form, then create a new form, and then on there we put a drop-down list, and let's put 2 drop-down lists. I'll name this one primary. I'll name this one secondary. I'll try to at least. be called secondary. And this one will also be type string, list import source data name, and this will be primary. And what I'll do is set primary to constant, and I'll just say A and B and C. Secondary, I will set constant to X, Y, Z, and ignore. Save this, and then edit my form. And what you'll see here in V7 is now on the properties grid, there's these active form flows, and we've put the existing options underneath legacy. So you can still do this in the same way you have before. But with an active form flow, what you would do is go build one. So I'll call this dependent drop down. And we would edit this. And here we get access to all the, this is a private flow. And we have access to all of the form components automatically. And so what I could do is I could do like a equal. I could say string equals. And then into the input, what I can do is select from flow, open up this form data, find the primary combo, and look at the selected item value. Selected item is a string array. That doesn't sound right.
I think you may have been too eager to call things lists.
What do you mean? I'm not sure I follow what you're asking there. Selected items.
Although why is, yeah, I think,
Let's see.
yeah, why is a selected item a string list?
That's a good question. Just a moment here. Let me see here. Here's primary, type string. So let's see, primary selection. Let's see here. Just save this and go back to my flow here. Edit my flow. All right, so here we are, form data, primary combo, selected item. There we go, single string. And I'll say that if it equals, what did I say, ABC or XYZ?
I think that's ABC.
If it equals B, what I'm going to do is on the true path, I'll update the values of the drop-down list. Yes, so false will just go here. What I'll do is use a create data step, and then under form rules, I will use a set control value. And on control value, I will pick form data combo box, which is the name of mine, and this will be item source. Okay. What's wrong with that? Selected path is not valid. Why? All items is array, maybe. No. Item source, combo box. Visible, selected item, item source. All items is array, all items as a, look at that, that's wonderful. I'm sure that's expected.
That's turtles all the way down.
Yeah, exactly, turtles all the way down. So let me try, let me see something. Data drop down list is a string list. And this is going to be M or LMN. We can change value of form data, combo box, item source. And
what do you need this for?
I'm trying to just update the values in the drop-down list itself. And this isn't letting, this should show me, this isn't show, this is getting screwy for some reason.
If the create data just made the
do
change.
combo box. Let me try just combo box here. Let me just see here. Combo box done. Ah, wonderful. I was selecting the wrong thing. So we don't need this. So set control value and item source, we'll do constant LMN. Selected item will be ignore now. And we will set this to run on selection change of primary. I'll walk back through this a bit slower, but let me see here. Do I have this right? So we launch, we've got ABC. If I click A, it's XYZ. If I click B, it's LMN. So that's kind of there's this this is a version of our active form flow. They're private flows. They have access to the form data directly. Unlike data flows where you have to specify inputs. And instead of using validation rules in concert with data flows to do one or the other, you can do all of that in an active form flow. And that it leverages this default input of form data as well as these form rule steps to let you interact with the actual form itself.
So follow-up question on that. One of our more popular examples of a dynamic list is one that is responding to typed text within itself. So typically what we have a flow does, so our existing data flows, what they typically do is they get the input of the current text, which is triggered by typing of text inside the combo box. And if it's just 1 or 2 characters, the normal thing to do is just to hand back a null list. On the 3rd character, I'll stop, do a query, and then take the first 10 query results and put that out as a list for the control where the typing was happening. So the follow-up question is, I didn't spy on an event for what I'll call typing inside the control.
That's still the same way. You're still gonna have a drop-down list, and your list input source is gonna be flow. And if we this is how you do it today. This won't be any different, I don't think. A drop-down list, you pick your flow. We'll just create a flow here that takes in a string. Since it's the drop-down list is type string, right? Create here, which I'll say this will be, typed input. And now that I have that input, I can update input and typed it. So flow input data is typed input. And here I can change it from typed in text to some other option. So this would still be the way you would do that typed in text input. And then now you can pass this typed in text, how much ever it is, into your flow to be passed into the query or what have you. Does that make sense?
So we have a string, a list input source is a flow. Now, so this is one of 2 ways, as it were, and this is something I also had typed out very nicely. This in version 6, we were called is called a private flow, meaning it's private to this combination box.
I don't think this type of flow is. I don't think this is a special flow behavior. It might be. Yeah, this type of flow is not a private flow. This is a regular flow. The one I just did, the typed in text, the active form flows I showed you, those are private flows, yes.
Okay, I'll need to push you on that difference a little bit later, but back to the old way, as it were. When we say private flow, we didn't mean that the flow itself is anything other than an ordinary flow. What we meant is that this control is the only control that has any awareness of that flow. And one of the consequences of using it is that if you're trying to understand why I didn't get an answer, why I'm not getting results, I can't debug it, is one of the catches. At least that's true in 6. I don't know if in release 7 you can debug this style of a flow or not, but in 6 you cannot.
The debugger should show the private flow execution.
It does not.
What's an example of a private flow that you're using here? Like an escalation flow and assignment?
Well, no, I mean, I call it I mean, that's what support people called it when they discussed how you said, hey, your source is going to be a flow, and this is the flow you're going to use to get your list source, and that its input should be typed text.
Right. That doesn't show in the debugger at all?
Not in release 6, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's probably just a straight miss. This predates data flows. So we probably just missed this type of showing in the debugger.
So the advice was to use a data flow instead.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Now the data flow in release 6, you have to now find, it gets a little more clumsy because now I have to very carefully hook it up to respond to an event of type text in this thing so that it can then get a list put back into it. And there's room for that to go astray. That's why so when I made the comment, when you're making your changes on the left in terms of that, I didn't see any, I did not see an option that if I'm using the new release 7 private flow, I didn't see an option for saying, hey, what you're going to do is you're going to listen to an event of text has been typed over here on this combo box, so that you can change the list of that same combo box.
Specifically for typed in text, right?
Yes.
Let's see here. Stop typing. It has stopped typing.
And then if I do a stop typing, can you then use that to inquire in the, what's your current, text value, and then I'll go maybe change your list based on that.
Yeah, it's stop typing. So if we do stop typing and we select allow external values, and then I go into my flow.
You might want.
Let's see here. And then I
might want something longer than B.
Well, I'm just going to see if I get it to actually show up at all. So does the typed in value pass in here? So if I look at this mapping, actually that should be okay. I don't need to change anything on this. Let me back out. Don't save, stop typing. Okay. Exit, save, debug. So if I select A, okay, so none of that works, but I change it. I dis it. So there's ASDF. View input data, takes in ASDF. Okay, so yeah, it takes it in. So if I type in B, like it'll type in.
So then we should see something in the form below.
Right,
and then the drop down below.
Element, yeah. So stop typing is the trigger control for active. Stop typing is the phrasing of the typed in text trigger ability, I guess, if I can say it that way, on active form flows in 7. You can see I passed it in here, false, and then true. So there you go. But I think that gets you what you're asking.
Yeah, and the good news is that I think this is a much more. The advantage of this route, though, is that it seems to have in fewer pieces. You have this one flow. It's very, to my mind, it's very clear what is happening, as opposed to in the existing form, I have to get configuration to align in 3 different places, at least 2 different places.
That's the idea here. Yep, absolutely. It's all in this flow instead of spread out amongst a myriad of different context menus.
Now you are calling this a private flow, which now means something very specific here in release 7. When you say it's a private flow, I'm sure that has everything to do with the fact that it has access to the form controls and everything about them, right?
Yeah, correct. It's not reusable. It's attached to this form specifically. In fact, you'll actually see it's a hidden item in the folder if we go look at hidden item.
That was my next question. Is it actually expressed out here in the folder?
You can see it's here under rule flow. And it probably, if we look at its ID, it has like you'll see it has the parent ID probably here, and then its ID dot rule flow is how it links itself to the parent flow. So it is tied to that. It's specifically tied to that form. It's not reusable in the same way that the what we call legacy bits were.
And then also, if you had other of these flows, you would have to be careful about naming them so they're not all called rule flow.
Yeah, I don't even know that it gives you the ability to name them. They'll just be called rule flow 1, rule flow 2, rule flow 3 right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that's ideal, but I think that's what it would do right now.
All right.
Okay, anything else, Chris?
No, that was just wondering how that little bit was going to work in 7, and happy to see it. It's actually got a facelift too.
Yep. All right, thank you, sir. All right, here we go. Siva, I'll give you, create dependent dropdowns with values coming from a truth table. Based on the selection from the first dropdown, I need to default the first value in the corresponding list for the second dropdown. I need to default the first value. Okay, this is very similar to what we just did, but we'll use the old pattern in 6 since you're on 6. So really quickly, I'm going to use the same form. I'm not going to use the same form. All right, so let's build ourselves a flow. In our flow, we'll put a form. And on our form, we will create a new form. And we will put a button. And we will put 2 drop-down lists. I'll call this primary. And I'll put another one. This will be called secondary. Secondary, that works too. And here, type will be string. List input source is data name. And this will be called primary drop-down list. We'll go to our secondary, set this type to string, set this to data name. This will be called secondary drop-down list. So that configures our form for us. Now we will come and we will create a data flow. This is how you would do this in 6, slightly different to the property grid editor here, but everything should be the same besides some of the UI and where things are located. I'm going to add a data flow. Call this set secondary selected item. Pick or create, and I will create a new form data flow. Yep. Okay. Here, what I'll do is I will take in the primary selected item as a string, since my drop-down list is a string. And what I'll do is run that into a truth table. Now my truth table, I'll have to create. And I'm going to set up input data here, which is define an input, which is selected, primary string. And here, select data element will say selected data element, selected primary string equals. I'll come edit my output data to change this from a Boolean to a string. Now I know moving through this quick, try to just move through these fast. We do post all these recordings after the fact so that you can review this more. I'm going to say if it equals A, if it equals B, or if it equals C, and we'll make a corresponding output, which will be X for A, Y for B, Z for C. So the idea is my first drop-down list will have A, B, or C. And based on the value, we're going to we're going to map to this value and populate the selected item of the secondary drop-down list. That's our use case here, as I understand it, at least. Now what I'm going to do is pass out a selected secondary item string. And this is going to get its value from the truth table. If I look at my truth table, my result is a list of strings. So I'm going to come over to advanced and select return only first result, which will change that to an individual string. Map in my selected string, which is the input I created on my flow called primary selected item. And here I'll map out from my flow the result string. So that flow should work. We can debug it if we want to. Primary selected item will be A. I'll debug it, look at my input output data, and X comes out. So that's what we expect. And if I look at my end step here, I see X comes out as well. So that's all set. We save this and close. Click update inputs here. Now we need to map our form input data. And we change this to form component, and we need to confirm our input name, which I think is primary. And our output, we're going to copy this string. And then we are going to say form input on run on value change primary. Okay. And then here, selected item data name will be the output of our data flow, and we'll confirm our selected item name is primary here. Just see if this works really quick, and then we can walk back through that burst. All right, so primary is ignore. Primary dropdown list is the name of our input, so I'll do constant, and here will be A, B, and C. And we will put here X, Y, Z is the values for our secondary dropdown list. We'll save this and run this. So dropdown list has A, B, C. If I select A, it'll set me to X. If I select B, it'll set me to Y. And if I select C, it'll set me to Z, all the while keeping the same list of available options, but it'll pre-select the selected item in the dependent dropdown list. The trickery, the piece that's confusing about this, amongst there might be multiple things that are confusing, is we created a data flow, and that data flow has an input and an output. We bind the input of our data flow to the selected item data name of our first dropdown, and then we copy out the output data name of our data flow, or the appropriate one, because there can be multiple outputs, and we take that string and we set the selected item data name equal to that string. And then the workflow engine knows to get the selected item value from the data flow's output. That's how that mapping works there.
Got it.
Questions about that?
No, this is good. I got it. Thank you.
And we'll post a video on YouTube, usually later this afternoon, so that you can review that. I know that was fast.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to call a third-party API through a proxy. So we don't call through proxies directly. Like any outbound calls we make that the server expects to move through a proxy will be made through that proxy. I believe you can actually say, I think you can override proxies, but this is really more of a IT infrastructure request than it is a decisions request. There's nothing in our tool that we don't have a proxy setup feature. Let me check something really quick. Let's forget. Won't just get. How about just get? Or how about post? Go post. URI content. Yeah. There is a property here to say not use default proxy. But either way, like any outbound web calls that you are going to push through a proxy will be made through that proxy. So it's really setting up the web server or the server in the proxy to be configured. You could just think about it as like a load balancer. We don't actually set up a load balancer in decisions, but we can receive requests from a load balancer and then respond to those requests back through the load balancer. But the application itself doesn't have a concept of a load balancer or a proxy. It's just HTTP requests. And so if the Windows server running out decisions in version 6 is expected to move its data or its calls to and from through a proxy, they will go through that proxy. So it's really not an application question. It's more of an IT infrastructure question.
Okay, sure. I think, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. Not sure I love that post icon as I'm looking at it. Okay, what other questions might we have today? I love that we have the Twitter icon. It's wonderful. Okay. Any other questions from the crowd today? Just had a bunch of people depart. Okay, all right, well, we're 30 minutes in, no more questions showing up, so we'll call it a day. Thanks everyone for your questions. Please invite everyone that works with you to join. And I will be here tomorrow, and then I believe it is going to be Noah on Wednesday. Thanks for your time and have a great afternoon.